Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you guys are tuning into this broadcast. I am your international award winning author, literary extraordinaire, and awe inspiring coach, Toneal M. Jackson. And I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Inspirational Talk with Toneal. And today, my guest is a very great friend of mine, none other than, I won't do a whole lot of extras, but none other than Miss Mary Hale. So, hello, Miss Mary. How are you?
Hello. Hello, everyone.
So we are going to jump right into it. I am about to make sure that we are going live on my page because I'm not. Got to make sure I see it. Hold on. So then that way, as you guys come on, let's see. Here, let me take this off. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me one quick second. Mary, do me a favor and go to your page and make sure that you see it live on your page because it shows that we're live. I just don't see it. Let me go to my fan page and I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if it's live from the fan page. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right.
Okay.
All right. We are here. We are here. So I
Okay,
just
now I forget where I'm at. Okay.
uh-oh. Yeah, you done blanked out on me. All right, all right. So let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. So we are good. We are good. I'm gonna edit all of this part out. Don't even worry about it. So in either case, hello, ma'am. How have you been?
I'm just fine. Life is good.
No complaints, right? No complaints. How
No
has the whole
complaints.
pandemic been treating you?
How has what?
The pandemic. How has the pandemic been treating you?
Well, I think we should do another aftermath
Uh oh.
because it's the
Uh oh.
aftermath of the aftermath.
Gotcha.
You got your 220 aftermath and you got your 221 aftermath. So, yeah.
It's been
Yeah,
something
it's been
else.
something.
It has definitely been something else. Well, look, for those who may have been under a rock and they don't know who you are, why don't we just start out talking about your entire journey? You are now the author of 5 books. You've
Right.
written for the series, and then you have the journal, and then we're working on an anthology. Matter of fact, 6 if you count the
Right.
anthology.
Yeah, the two
You write
anthologies.
so much,
Yeah.
I gotta keep up with you. And so y'all might say, "Well, how do you know?" Because I'm her publisher. And so
Right.
so we did
And
the
working on another one.
right, and we got another one that's in the
Mhm.
works, right? So
Right.
let's start off first. I want to just talk about the first 4 books that you started. So tell us a little bit about those 4 books, that whole collection.
Well, those books started with a vision that the Lord had given me, and I guess I had went through so much in life and never acknowledged the fact that I went through.
Mm,
And when He gave me that vision and I started writing, it brought me to tears because I just threw stuff under the rug.
okay.
And when I started writing that one book, which was The Walls of My Heart,
Mm-hmm.
I had wrote the vision down and it became one book. But then the Lord says you're not through. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that, right?
Oh yeah, I
And so,
remember.
and so I wrote another one. Uh, I forgot the name of it, The Castle of My Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then Emotional Baggage
Mm-hmm.
and The Castle to My Heart. So it's a series.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went from there. I mean, it's so much for that one vision. It's a one-page vision, but it turns out to be 4 books.
And it's really crazy because, like you said, I remember you bringing to me the walls of my heart, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I like this. And I was thinking, I was looking at how we could take it, turn it into a journal and things like that. But then you're like, don't be mad at me. I'm not done. And so then you're like, don't be mad at me. I'm still not done. And you know what? If I am honest, so between book 1 is emotional baggage, then the formation of my walls, the walls of my heart, and the castles of my heart, right?
Yes,
And
right.
I like them all because they're really deep on a spiritual level. I think, and again, having to have read the books in order to edit and publish it, I believe we had this conversation. I called you and I was like, oh my God, like I was literally going through a lot of the stuff that you described in the book at that particular season in my
Mm,
life. And it was just really eye opening for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, like how did you tap into this stuff, you know? And if I'm gonna be very honest, of all four of the books, I think, and I don't know that I've told you this, but I think emotional baggage is probably my favorite. Like
yeah.
that book right there, and let me take these glasses off because this ring light, but that book right there, I love emotional baggage because for me, I can connect to it the most. So for those who may not have read emotional baggage, and again, you can either go to the weareaps.com website or Amazon and
Right.
get your copy. But tell them a little bit about emotional baggage.
Okay, so emotional baggage goes into detail. It kind of it breaks down like the stuff that I went through for years.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, sometimes you go through stuff, but you don't acknowledge the stuff that you're going through. And
Mm-hmm.
so you hold it in and you keep moving, and you're not talking about it, you're not sharing it. It's just coming at you. For instance, say death. I remember my father and my brother, we had a double funeral, and I didn't cry.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my grandmother passed away a couple of months after my brother and my father passed away. It's still didn't dawn on me to let go. And so I
Mm-hmm.
held that from the time I was 15 that I can remember on up. But of course, being 15, went through some stuff too. You're a teenager. You don't
Yeah,
know anything about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But to hold it for so many years, to hold it from when I can remember, which was 15 when my father's mother died, on up until I'm retired now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, the Lord shows you in a vision a heart. He showed me a red heart and a gold heart. And it came to me how to break that down and how it applied to my life. But
Mm-hmm.
then I know it helps people because we all go through some things. And sometimes we don't know what those things are.
Yes,
And
yes.
it don't just take you through, it drags you through, and then it hits you. And
Mm-hmm.
then you get with the anxiety and the depression and all that different kind of stuff, and it comes on you.
My God, absolutely. And again, for those who may have never seen the book, when you see emotional baggage, it hits me hard because literally we're painting this picture of baggage, right? So you have all of these different suitcases, and I'm trying to. So I know on one of the suitcases, it was rejection. And for
Right.
me, you could have just stopped right there, right? Because that was my whole life story. I mean, for a great amount of my life, at least half of my life, I dealt with issues of rejection and abandonment and things like that. And so it was really hard for me to overcome that. And so you touch on that, and then you even go into self-loathing.
Right.
And and I think a lot of times when you're going through rejection issues, it kind of connects because you're so used to other people rejecting you that you begin to hate yourself. Like
That's true.
it's even if you don't hate yourself, you definitively question your existence. Like,
Right.
what is it about me? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Why is it that they don't want me or don't want to be bothered with me or whatever? Did you find yourself like experiencing some of those same
I
feelings?
I didn't experience the fact. Matter of fact, it was the opposite for me because people kept bringing their problems to me.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
was the total opposite. It's like, okay, you got a problem. I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna call her for this. I'm gonna call her for that. So I never took the time out for me
Yeah, yeah.
because I was the one that carried though everybody's bag. Not
Mhm,
only my bags, I carry everybody else's bags. So,
mhm.
and it becomes frustrating. So I talked about frustration. I talked about rejection. I talked about anger and bitterness, especially bitterness, because then you
Yeah.
look back and you be like, you become bitter because you like, well, how come I couldn't take care of my stuff? Or why didn't I take care of myself? Or why didn't I do this? And, so yeah, then it's self-abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You've abused yourself because you paid attention
Mm-hmm.
to everybody else.
But you, yeah. And
Hmm.
I think that is key when you're talking about that bitterness, because I think that sometimes if you're not careful, it can overtake you
Yeah.
without you even being aware, right?
Hmm.
Like that feeling of bitterness and resentment where you're looking at other people and you have this, I will just call it a issue in your heart. Doesn't necessarily have to be hatred, but it's like, what is it about that person, or what it, like you may get to a point where you're blaming other people for things that you
Right.
yourself have had to
Hmm.
experience, or why is it that they don't have to have it as hard as I've had to have it,
Right.
and so like, what would you say to people who are experiencing that, like what they can do to possibly overcome or at least cope with those feelings?
Well, my feelings actually, my cleansing came through writing, but it's a walk that you have to walk, and you have to prayerfully go through these things. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to jot those, you have to write letters to yourself, you
That's
know,
good.
or talk to yourself, but make sure that you're not talking negative to yourself.
Mhm.
But prayer is the key for
Mm,
me.
mhm.
Yes.
That's good. So, for those of you who are just now tuning in, I am interviewing award-winning author Mary Hale. And so, we started out the interview talking about her collection, the Speak to My Heart series, and it entails 4 books. You have Emotional Baggage, The Formation of My Walls, The Walls of My Heart, and then The Castle to My Heart. And if you all are interested in getting any of those books or all of them, you can again either go to weareaps.com or you can go to amazon.com. Now, you didn't stop there, Mary. You kept on writing.
No, I kept on going. As a matter of fact, through the years, and I didn't even know, I had been writing and writing and writing. And I didn't know, actually, the stuff that I'm writing, I had already written. I started in 1990.
Wow. Wow.
So it's coming together. And so it's like, okay, all of these books are coming out of me.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize I had it in me, because even when I came to see you, I was like, well, I just want to leave a legacy, and
That was so cute you felt that.
a legacy for my family. I'm not trying to make no money. I'm not trying to be no author. None of that. But however, you talked me into it.
I just told you what I saw for you. That's all. I just told you what I saw.
And I thought about that the other day. I was like, okay, I think it started in 2008, September of 2018,
Mhm.
right?
Around that time, yeah, it had to be.
Yes, okay. And from 2018 to now, I have gotten all these books,
Wow.
written all these books, and went through the networking process. And it's something, because I've met some very beautiful people through APS, and it has worked out good for me. And it's great to, especially you, to know these people. You have Lisa Adams and Aretha Tatum and Victoria, and I'm forgetting somebody. I done lost somebody.
It's okay.
But
We
it's a
know.
lot. It's a lot of people that I have
Mhm.
met, and they're not, uh, because I myself am not. I could never consider myself as a friendly person. I'll just say it that way.
Really? I would
Yeah.
have never said that, because you have been a sweetheart since we met. You laugh like I said.
maybe that was my deliverance. Oh, I forgot about Patricia. Yeah, Patricia Brooks and Tanya, and
Beatrice, yeah,
Tony. What is that? Tanya
Tanya,
Williams and Arnett. Yeah,
yeah.
I forgot about it. I know I was leaving somebody out. Yeah, I've met a lot of beautiful women in with APS.
I can't stand you.
Well, I told you, because you brought it up. Uh, well, we'll be having network uh,
Meetings.
meetings, and I was like, Let's what's network meetings? And then you told me, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be good at that.
And I just always assumed it was because you were shy, because I do know you. For people who don't know, you do have a rather introverted side where it's like you only talk to who you know. And I can totally identify with that. So for me, I never would have thought that you were not a nice person, because from day one, we just clicked
Yeah.
and we always were able to vibe. And so, well, whoever it is you were nice to, I won't know about it because it's never happened in front of me. Now, you were talking about all the writing you've done, and I think that it's important for us to kind of like share with the audience that you started out just writing like some nonfiction books, and then you transitioned into the first anthology that we did, which was The Fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
And so, and then from there, you transitioned into writing a journal. And so
Right.
I kind of want to like talk about what was the differences for you. What were the differences from writing like your first book to then being a part of this anthology? So now you're just like a contributor, to then like delving into something totally different and creating a journal. What were those experiences like?
Okay. So when I did the anthology,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, my imaginary friends, but it still it still applies to life. It's so it was like it was a transferring over because I was used to talking about myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so now you got these imaginary friends that you have to make up and write about. So, but it wasn't, it's not too bad because that's what I've been doing since I wrote those 4 books.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, so it's different. It's different because now you have to play it out a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and then with the journals to me come easy. I think I got about 10 journals,
Wow. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I post them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I have woman to you,
Mm-hmm.
uh, food for thought. What's love got to do with this? And that's my next book. What's love got to do with this? Um, Real talk. Um, and it's a lot more. I can't name them all right now, but I have a lot of them. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I never thought I'd be doing that.
Wow. And so again, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking to Mary Hale, and we're kind of bringing out of her some of the things that she has experienced in this entrepreneurial journey, learning different things about yourself, being able to grow into something that you never thought possible. What has probably, if you can pinpoint one or two things, the most rewarding, if we want to use that word, experience for you, or the most rewarding part of being an author thus far?
Because you find that your journey or the things that you went through in life and you held in so much and you thought you were the only one that was going through,
Mhm.
it helps so many people. It
Yeah.
helps a lot of people. So yeah, that's rewarding. That's very
Awesome.
rewarding. Yes.
So currently, I know you got a few things that's going on. So I know like we completed the Aftermath anthology, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you also have a couple groups. So if people are watching from Facebook, you have the marriage room, which we can
Right.
talk about. And the matter of fact, I'm gonna just let you say all of them because you got a lot of things that you orchestrate, and that you navigate through. So why don't you talk to us about like some of the current things that you have coming up? And like I said, we'll talk about the anthology in a moment.
Okay. So the marriage room is for everybody. That's for people that are in relationships. So, and I find that people inbox me about the marriage room, and I want to let everyone know I am not a counselor.
Yeah, we'll say put it out there now. The disclaimer: I'm not certified, no papers. Yeah.
I'm not a counselor, but they read the different posts, and I think it in the at the time that I started the marriage room, I figured, I have about 90 or 80 or 90 people. And it has blossomed into 500 some people.
Wow.
And so it's just me posting and talking about different things that happen in relationships. So it's called the marriage room, but it's for all relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have Adjust My Crown. And I started Adjust My Crown because uh, you see these young men struggling and trying to find a nice mate or have a nice relationship. But if you're going to live as a king, where are you going to get your queen from?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
good.
as an older woman, I can tell you to adjust your crown. So it's people there that post also. Everybody posts. So uh, we help each other in Adjust My Crown.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the author's page. That's where I put everything that I put in the marriage room and Adjust My Crown. I take it over to the author's page. And so what I'm working on right now is woman to you. So woman to you, um, it came to me that we as women have went through a lot of things, and miscarriage, abortion, stillbirth, uh, hysterectomies, and sometimes you don't know the stress and worry and uh, and sometimes it does a job on you as far as your character and different stuff because you feel that uh, it's your fault. Everything that you've done is your fault, but things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people make you feel like it's your fault. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a place, a safe place where you can talk about different things that apply to that subject.
Well, you know what? First of all, hello, Miss Kanita. Thank you so much for tuning in. I admire you for creating a space to talk about what some would deem as taboo topics, right? Because a lot of times, especially being a woman, when we undergo certain things, it's like the focus is just to push through it and not to really acknowledge what you're going through, right?
Right,
It's almost like we've been trained where, okay, if you're going through a situation, obviously you want to go through, you don't want to become depressed, but there's also something to be said for allowing yourself an opportunity to take in this is happening to me.
yeah,
When you were talking about like the hysterectomies and things like that, I'll never forget my first daughter. So for those of you, I've openly shared, like I have four daughters and I've had four C-sections. And so when I had my first daughter, I didn't know anything about what a C-section
yeah,
was, right? Like if there are any women in my family who had C-sections, I wasn't aware about it. Like we were not a family that openly talked about like medical history and things like that. You just looked up and here's a baby in the family. How
right,
the details behind how the baby came to be,
right.
never, really talked about it. And so here I am, 22, and I am going into labor early. Like she was due November 12th, and October 17th, I began to dilate. And I remember the doctor saying, well, it's okay if she comes early because she's a nice size and you're basically you past that 36-week mark. So it's okay if she comes early. So he ended up sending me home. So for 2 weeks, I'm walking around, because they tell you walk, 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 walk. So
Mhm.
I'm doing all of this stuff trying to open up and I never open up. And so then I end up having to go to the doctor and he's like, well, you know what? We need to, so basically he's putting me into labor. So now I done had Pitocin and all of this stuff. I go into
See,
it's like 13 hours of labor. So I'm feeling all of these labor pains, this, that, and the third. And the issue is that I never open up. So I'm still at the same 2 centimeters that I was at on October 17th. And so now what happens is he's like, the baby is in distress. So we need to have a C-section. We need to give you a C-section. what is a C-section? Like,
Right.
because even in all of my 9 months, like that was never discussed. It was never an option because every time I went, everything is good. You look like everything
Mhm.
is well. And so there was never a discussion. And maybe the assumption is that every woman just knows what a C-section
You're
is.
supposed to know, right? And
I
it
didn't.
doesn't
You
work like
know,
that.
I'm 22, and so he's like, "We got to have a C-section." I'm like, and it was everything went so fast, right? So it literally went from I'm going through this labor and all these labor pains, and I'm hurting and I'm contracting and all of this stuff, but she's not
Oh
coming
Lord,
out.
have mercy.
And now they're like, okay, now we got to do an emergency C-section. So when I say all of this stuff is going by so quick, and I'm sitting there and I'm crying because I don't even understand what's
See,
happening. And so when you said about the blaming and stuff, that was the next thing I did. What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Why
yeah.
can't I
What's
push her
wrong with
out?
my body? Why
Yes,
like yeah.
yes. Why is
Hmm.
it that everybody else, like, am I less of a woman? What's going on? Why is it that, uh-oh, there you go. So it's like, why is it that I'm not able to push her out? What's wrong with my body? What's wrong? You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? And so I really feel like that should have been a conversation that somebody had. And now
Right.
I don't remember the nurse's name, but I'll never forget her in that, I'm crying and she comes to me to console me and she's like, "Do you understand what's going on?" And I'm like, "No, all I know is they're saying that I have to have a C-section and I don't know what I did wrong or why couldn't I do it right?" So I'm
Yeah.
steadily and she's like, "Let me tell you something," because I was beating myself up like I'm not a woman, I'm letting all of these things. And she said, "Let me tell you something." She said, "How the baby gets here does not matter. Just as long as when that baby gets here, she's healthy and you do what you can take care of her, that's all that matters." I never forgot those words because you have to also keep in mind, I just lost my mom 2.5 months earlier.
Mhm.
So, I'm here. My dad didn't come until like after I had the baby. So I have it was an experience.
It's
Let's
it's
say
it's a it is the experience, and like you, I did the same thing. There's no one to talk. They didn't tell you anything. It's just you at home
that. Hmm.
or the before experience. They never walked you through this.
Hmm.
But when you get to the hospital, you got to make a decision.
Yep. Yep.
And so even with miscarriage, you go in, you know you've lost the baby, but emotionally, it's emotional stress
Yeah.
there. And you go through this thing like, why did I have a miscarriage? What's wrong with my body? Nobody's explaining these things to you.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, and see, even with your story, uh, people could probably relate to folks not talking to them and walking through it with them,
Yeah,
because when you're on that table, these folks just assume that you've talked to somebody and you
yeah,
already know, like
yeah.
you got to make the decision right away because it's a life and death situation.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And it's like, so what do? You say, do what you gotta do to preserve to save her life, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
whatever that means, I'll figure it out later. And then it's like it was the same thing. And I was just talking about this story Sunday, in regards to my youngest daughter, because Jariah just turned 13. So she just had a birthday. And so a lot of times, again, as mothers, we don't really take the time to reflect what all we've gone through unless and until a situation presents itself
Right.
to make you kind of recall. And I was just saying how I remember when I was pregnant with her, I want to say I was doing the first ultrasound where they told me that I was a high risk pregnancy. So I think it's fair to say for three of my four pregnancies, pregnancy 2, 3, and 4, I was a high risk. And so with her, they were like that I was a high risk, but it was different than the other times because they were like I wouldn't be able to do too much of anything because of the way that I was carrying her. I didn't
Mhm.
really understand what that meant when they're saying the
Right.
way I was carrying her. And so, what I did find that what they told me when I went in for my first ultrasound was, after her, you will not be able to have any more children.
Wow.
And so that was very devastating because at the time they're telling me this, they're also revealing her gender. And it's important to note, I always wanted a son. So here it is. This is the last child that I can give birth to, and it's yet another girl,
Girl.
and I left that. I didn't even take my sonogram picture with me. Like I was so depressed. Like I was devastated. I couldn't even get the words because again, here it is that I feel like I'm the failure, even though we understand biologically it takes the male to,
Yeah.
determine the gender, but still for me, it was a person like I did something wrong. Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? And
Right.
so even once we got to her and once we got to delivering her, I remember being on the operating table because by then it wasn't, we knew that it was going to be a C-section, had no other choice. So I remember being on the operating table and the doctor saying to me, how in the world did you go full term? Like he's
Wow.
literally operating on me and he pulls up my uterus and shows me how flimsy my
Oh
uterus
my
is.
God.
Like he's like, I've never known anybody's uterus to be this thin to be able to make it full term. And Jariah was a big baby. Jariah was 8.78
Oh
pounds.
wow.
Yeah, and they're like, there's no way that she should have made it full term. And so every year this baby had a birthday, I was just thanking God because they saying my body shouldn't have been able to carry her. And he ends up telling me after I had her, he's like, Miss Jackson, I don't know how to say it, but you can't have any more children. Like if
Mm.
he literally said these words to me, if you get pregnant again, you will die.
Oh
And
wow.
that part. And I'm 28. And he's like, if you get pregnant again, you will die. And so that's something to hear when you have
Yeah.
four young children at home and you have to just make a decision because it's really no decision to make. It's no decision
No,
to make
it's
because you
got it's got to happen. I mean,
absolutely,
right,
absolutely.
right. And even with fibroids, we go through with these fibroids.
Yep.
I know someone that had surgery and they had these giant fibroids. They don't know anything about
Mhm.
fibroids and what you're telling them. Nobody's ever talked to them about no fibroids, and now you got these big red things coming out of your body. you know, so it's a lot that our body go through. So we go
Mhm.
through spiritually, emotionally, and physically because
Yeah.
that's a stain. When you
Yeah.
had a miscarriage and folks are looking at you crazy and they're not telling you, you
Yep.
know, what happened is just that, hey, you went to the doctor, they told you you had a miscarriage, and life goes on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
And
not
life
nice.
never goes on because I
It's the
don't know
death of a child.
absolutely how how do you deal with something like that? Like you went to the hospital or to the doctor and you were pregnant and there was a life inside of you and now
It,
it's
it
not.
leaves a stain. It leaves a stain on you emotionally. And sometimes our body, when it's going through, it affects us. It's a carryover emotionally and
Mhm.
spiritually because now you're spiritually detached from this baby because this baby has died.
Mhm.
Something that you were expecting, something that you were having on the inside of you, and then folks tell you, "Oh, uh, things happen for a reason," or "It's good that you didn't have this child." You can't tell a young girl that
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now she's not going to talk to anybody about it because
Mhm.
she's embarrassed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nobody's walked her through it, told her how to do after she's gone through this emotionally because it does. It affects you in more ways than one. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah. So
think a lot of times as women, we deal with so much. I know that they talk about postpartum depression all the time,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
But honestly, I feel like that even before postpartum, right? So postpartum is after you've had the baby,
right.
then, but I don't know if this is actually a thing or if I'm making up, I don't know. But I think that even during pregnancy, there, because it's so
Yeah.
many emotions that
Hmm.
you're going through. It's a myriad of emotions. It's, yes, you're happy because you have a life, and then, I mean, a life inside of you, but then it's all of these other emotions, and it's not just shallow and superficial of I'm gaining weight, but you go through things where it's like, am I ready for this?
Right.
And it makes you take more of an introspection with, in yourself, like, am I going to be a good mother? What if I don't do this? What if,
Yeah.
and
It's a
you're
lot.
yeah,
It's
and
a
it's
lot.
daily, because
It's a
every
lot.
day you feel the different changes. When that baby is growing. Before you go and get an ultrasound, when the baby is growing, because you can feel the difference.
Hmm.
Because once upon a time, they didn't move it all. Now the little hands is moving. Now the little feet,
And they're
you can
kicking
feel,
and all
yeah,
that stuff. And so they're kicking
absolutely.
and doing all this on this inside of you. But your hormones is acting up.
Hmm.
You sitting up crying, or the what phase you going through and different stuff. And nobody talks to you about this. They just like, oh, you having a baby, this, that, and other. Oh, you had the baby, and okay, life goes on.
Mhm. Like it's really nothing. And the only thing that then is celebrated is the birth of the child. And I feel like that when the mother makes it through that, that should be a celebration for the mom. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And unfortunately, the way society goes, it's so kind of abrupt, but and even callous, but it is what it is. You don't matter anymore. Like, once you have your children, I mean, and I don't mean that technically you don't. The way that people treat you
Yeah.
is like all you were was the giver of life. Because
Mm.
now, you come around and people just want to see the baby. People just want to talk about the baby.
Yeah.
Very rarely, is it, how are you? Did you get
Right.
sick? How are things? You know what I'm
Ooh,
saying?
especially with a C-section, you all bandaged up, and to me, C-section, hysterectomy, those are life-threatening things
Oh
that
yeah,
we go through. I mean, having a
absolutely.
baby is life-threatening
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
but these other things where you're being cut on and
yeah,
different stuff, and not sure what the experience of the doctor, because right there is a doctor right before you. You have no uh, knowledge of his backgrounds,
yep,
or if he can really do this or whatever. You just want it out. You want it
yep.
done.
Yep. You're just sitting there, you're trusting that, because again, you don't sit and say, how many times have you done this before? Who all has been done? Let me see your resume. You just laying there, and when you're told, again, in my case, the first time, I knew that I had to, like, we thought that I was going to be able to go have her naturally, and it turned into an emergency
Yeah.
situation. The second time with Ariana, so my second daughter, the doctor was like, oh, well, this is looking good, because what he did tell me, he made sure to tell me that you can actually have one C-section and then give natural birth thereafter. But after two C-sections, then you don't have a choice but to keep having C-sections. So with Ariana, everything was going well. He was so happy. He's like, because unlike with my first daughter, he's like, your body is opening up, everything is going well. She was due, when's her birthday? So she was due December 17th, right? And so on December 10th, I go in for my last checkup. I thought is my last checkup. He does the checkup. He's like, I had placenta previa. And so, but he didn't tell me that at the time. I found out. He did the checkup and he's like, I need you to get to the hospital
Oh
because we
wow.
we need to deliver this baby today.
Mm.
That's
See.
that was I said, well, but I said, but because she not due till next week. I still had, because I mean, I had came into the appointment by myself and everything. So I wasn't like, I'm just thinking that this is just
It'll
normal
be a
protocol.
regular
Let's just
appointment.
go
Yeah.
through it. And he's like, no, we need to deliver this baby now. So he's like, so go home, get your stuff, and meet me at the hospital in the next hour. So I'm freaking out. You know what I'm saying? Like, because even
Because
though
what is placenta
I'm
previa?
gonna tell you. So when I get to the hospital, and they getting me prepped or whatever, and I'm like, I asked one of the nurses, what's going on? She said, he didn't tell you. I said, no, all I know is that he said that I need to have the baby now. And she said, well, you have a condition called placenta previa. So basically what happens is, if you were to go into labor, your placenta comes out first. So my placenta shifted. So your placenta comes out first, which means that you would hemorrhage to death. The baby would, so you and the baby would probably die,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And so yeah, it's definitely a life or death situation. And
Yeah.
so you're not supposed, so it's supposed to be the afterbirth, like the baby
Right.
comes first, then but my placenta has shifted. And so and that's why he was like, apparently he didn't want to tell me because he didn't want to get me worked up. But when you tell me you got to have this baby today, guess what?
You worked up. Yeah.
I'm still worked up. And so like, so now it's like in my head, it wasn't necessarily afraid, more so than, so now I can never know what pushing a baby out,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so now this time my body actually did the job and it was opening up, and then but it did the job too well because now everything then got all shifted.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
the same thing with my third daughter with Angel, same thing.
None
Placenta.
of them are the same.
No, yeah, all of my pregnancies were different, but I had issues with all of my, so, and
Wow.
when you're talking about like with C-sections and stuff, what people may not know, I remember I remember my sister, God bless her soul, because my sister had natural births. She said something to the effect of what she wished that she could just have a C-section as opposed to, I don't even remember the rest of the comment. I said, let me tell you something.
Mm-mm.
You would rather give birth through your mouth than to
Whoa.
have a C-section, because not only are you getting cut literally from one side, because mine went horizontally. So not only are you getting cut from one side to the other side, you first have to have an epidural in your back. And
Yeah.
so for, I don't remember if it was Ariana or Angel, they poked me one time too many. And so, like, I was numb longer than I was supposed to be numb. So, for all intents and purposes, they're paralyzing you. And so, it's supposed to wear off. And when I finished having, like I said, I think it was Angel, my third child, I woke up, but my legs had not. And so, yeah, I was freaking out because why can I not move? And
Wow.
y'all not explaining this to me. You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and you have to have, in order to have a C-section, you have to have the
To
epidural
have
in
an epidural. Yeah.
your chest. And so, but moving forward to your point, when you're talking about the whole thing with fibroids and
Right. It's a lot. It's so much
and all of that.
to it. It's so much, and I'm quite sure that people have stories that they can share so that people can understand it a little, others can understand it a little bit better
Yeah.
or have some idea as what's going to happen or when you get there or when you after you had your child and you're going through all this emotional different things because you are an emotional disaster after you've had a child.
That part.
Yeah,
That part.
you
And I
are
mean,
there.
because it's so much to take in, whether it's your first child, your fourth child,
Yeah,
it's so much to take in because at the end of the day, it's still another experience, right?
right,
Like, it doesn't matter if you've done it, if you've had two, three, five, 10 children, every child is different. And
right.
so it's like there are certain things that you can know, like, okay, technically I know, okay, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, we got to do doctor's appointments. So those routine things, but again, how it's going to be customized to each
Yes,
child,
yeah,
you
yeah.
have no
Because my
clue.
aunt had 20 children. Imagine having 20
Mm.
children.
No, no, no. No, 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 I don't want to imagine that. Mm-mm. No, no,
Well,
don't want.
back in the day, they was having uh, 20, 15 kids and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
God
And they
bless.
weren't going to no doctor. They would be up in the corner somewhere having these
Mm-mm, God
kids,
bless. God bless. Mm-mm, mm-mm,
you know? And
mm-mm.
so, yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And it can't, and they say you can have a nervous breakdown and, you can go through a whole lot of different stuff, but people don't know and they don't explain. And that's the purpose of Woman to Woman to You.
So if someone wanted to join that group, how would they be able to do so?
Well, I have questions because If you're joining this group, you need to be able to feel free to talk about your experience.
Okay.
I mean, you can request to join, uh, but I like to keep it private
Mhm.
because a lot of people do not want their information spread
Release.
all
Yeah.
over everywhere, and I don't want mine spread out over. I mean, I don't really care.
Mhm. Mhm.
I really don't care, but a lot of people want to keep it private, and a lot of people want to learn, and a lot of people want to share. So yeah, that is a place to do all of that.
Okay, so for those of you who, whether you're watching it live or you're watching on the replay, if you are, interested in whether it is sharing your story to help some other woman, because you've had a miscarriage or a stillbirth or a C-section or hysterectomy or any of these things, and either you want to be able to be a light for someone else, or maybe you're going through. This is a great space for you to understand that you are not by yourself and there is someone else that's there who has gone through what it is that you are going through. Kanita says, great conversations, ladies. This is so needed. I used to be a doula and I was always amazed at how much doctors didn't tell women. Girl, I'm trying to tell you, like, I
No,
think that there is almost a bias where the thought is because you're a woman, you're just supposed to know.
yeah,
Like, I understand this is happening to my body, but nobody told me. And this isn't necessarily something you learn in health class. You know what I'm
no,
saying? Like, yeah, you learn about the birds and the bees, but you don't really understand about C-sections and placenta previa and all of these other things that can happen to you even while you're at the hospital. And so to be able to walk out of that, you said this earlier. You said literally giving birth is a life or death experience. Like,
hmm,
and I think that people just take for granted that you're supposed to just be able to walk in, give birth to this new life, and then walk back
and
out.
carry on. And it doesn't work like that.
It's
It does not
no,
work like that
you
because
should
you
be
got to give
grateful.
yourself time to heal
Absolutely.
emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I want to kind of shift a little bit to talking about this, dealing with the aftermath, because this is your next project, or at least one of
Yeah.
them, because you got a few, but this is the next project that should be coming out next couple months, dealing with the aftermath. What made this project different than any of your other projects?
Oh my God. It's so much emotion in that, dealing with the aftermath, of people sharing what they go through. You know, uh, here you got people that are living together, that are married people.
Mhm.
However, they have not been in that household with each other like they have, before the pandemic hit. So now you got domestic abuse, you got divorce, you got separation, you violence, you got all these different things going on. Then you got the kids. You can't see me. I couldn't see my grandkids. you
Yeah,
know, it, you
yeah.
know, you can't party like you used to. I love to play cards and have dinners and fish fries
Mhm.
and all that different kind of stuff. You can't do all that.
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
Then you got to put on this mask and it's smothering you, and it's like you in isolation. And so
Mhm.
a lot of your stuff in travel, you got to go through certain things. It was too much. It's too
Mhm.
much. I mean, it's coming a little. It's becoming a little bit better now, but in 2020, we went through.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's when we were, starting to, I think right at the top of January, we were starting to put this book together and come together, sharing our experiences. And I think that's when we learned that everybody has gone through something, but
Yes,
we've all experienced it differently, and it's crazy because we're all going through the pandemic,
right,
but the way that we were affected by it was totally different.
right, and death was too much.
Yeah.
It was too much because you know it's not like you can go in the hot. And that was another thing. You have people going into the hospital, You
Yeah.
can't go in the hospital with
You
them.
can't visit them. Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going on behind those closed doors,
Mhm.
and then one dying after the other, that one death after the other death, people that would like hear you talking to them one day and the next day they got COVID and
Yeah.
they
It was a
gone.
lot. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was so much to overcome, and like you say, depending on where you go, some places you still limited in terms of hospital visitations.
Yeah,
Certain things are getting a little bit better, but I just thank God, because even with the various, you had a couple bouts, but God brought you through
yeah.
various situations, and so we just thank God, that everything, in spite of it all, we're still here to live to
We're
tell the
still here.
story.
We're
So
still here to write our story.
that's it. That's it. Now, what do you have coming up? What projects or what events or whatever? What do you have that's coming up in the near future?
Well, I want to get back to doing StreamYard for the marriage room, to because a lot of people need to talk it out,
Mhm.
you know. Uh, so I don't know when I'm going to start that back, but because I've went through some stuff here lately myself,
Yeah.
some devastating stuff.
Mhm.
So I was about to actually give up on all of it.
Wow.
Then the adjust my crown. I want to do an event probably in May.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the things that's coming up right now. And even in the midst of all of this, I became an actress.
You better you better talk about it. Go ahead, talk about your actressness. Yes, I can make up a
something,
word, actressness.
something, something I never would have. I was like, oh, I gotta do what now?
That is
But
incredible.
I went on ahead. That was through Lisa Adams and Aretha Tatum, and that was quite an experience.
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
quite an experience. Yeah. So God does. He still works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it's just funny because you see the humor in it. It's like, Lord.
Mhm. 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 That part. That part. Are you sure me? This me?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm calming down. I'm doing a whole lot better than I was. So
Well, let me
yeah.
ask you this question. Is there anything that you want to do that you have yet to try?
You know what? I want to model.
Really? Go ahead.
Yes, for women over 50, I want to model.
You
I
should
want to set
try
up this
that.
thing where we have this little modeling thing, uh, and just do
Like
it.
a
Because
fashion
I mean, that
show.
that sounds like so much fun to me. That seems like so much fun to me. I want to do that.
So, like, do you mean like you want to professionally model, or do you mean you want to have like an event where you do like a fashion show and have the
Right?
whole
Yes,
runway, and
the
then once
fashion
you do
show.
that, you done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you don't want
No,
you don't want
I don't
you.
want to. I don't want to go into another career.
So you just want to feel what it feel like, and then say, "I did it." Okay, and now let's wrap it up.
Right?
You should do
Yeah,
something like that. I think
that's
that
my
that
next
would be
thing. Yeah.
awesome. That would be
Yeah.
awesome to do like some type of fun fashion show, even if we did something like maybe a charity type of event
Yeah.
or something
That
like
would
that.
be nice. Yeah.
We gonna have to put our heads
Yeah,
together
we're
and
gonna put
see.
that together. Collaborate
Absolutely.
with. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Absolutely. I think that would be awesome. Well,
Yeah.
in these final minutes, ma'am, do you have any remarks or encouraging words that you would like to leave for our listeners today?
Well, I just want to say, doesn't matter what age you are or what destiny you feel that you have already walked through. God has the final say so. Because trust me, I would never have thought that I would come to this point of being here, writing books,
Hmm.
and especially trying to act.
Well, you did it. You ain't tried. You done did the doggone
Well,
thing
okay, I did
already.
it,
So,
and it's just life is good. Life is good. So you just don't let anything distract you. Just keep. I mean, you have distractions in life, and it kind of pushes you back, but just keep moving. Keep
Mhm.
moving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to avail it and allow me to interview you. So thank you for being such an awesome guest. And again, to any of the viewers, if you want to go and support Miss Mary Hale, you can again go to whether it's weareaps.com, you can go to amazon.com, and all of her books are available, whether you're looking at emotional baggage, the formation of my walls, the walls of my heart, or the castle to my heart. If you want to see her collaborative project, which is the Fruit of the Spirit anthology, or even the journal that she has produced, all of those can be found if you go to weareaps.com or if you go to
Amazon, yes.
amazon.com. And
Yeah.
then if you want to connect with her on social media, you can do so. Her name is Mary Hale, but on social media she's listed as Hale Mary. And if you want to join her groups, she has the marriage room, adjust my crown, and then again, woman to woman to you. But
Yeah.
please understand that that is really a sacred space. So you want to go in with the right mindset. So
Right.
in either
No
case,
judgment.
right, no judgment. It's a
Hmm.
judgment-free zone. So if you guys are glad to be a woman, because again, on Tuesdays it's inspirational talk, but it is the I'm glad to be a woman edition. Y'all can't see me. I don't know if I should stand up, but this is my I'm glad to be a woman shirt. So if you guys want one, and I know I owe you one, Mary, I'm gonna get you one. So
Okay.
if you want, and I'm glad to be a woman shirt, or if you want to just, if you're glad to be a woman and you want to support the movement, feel free to send a Cash App donation to $ I'm glad to be a woman. And then I invite you all to please join me throughout the week for my live at 5 lineups, right? So Monday is our APS day, aka aspects of entrepreneurship. Tuesdays, we do inspirational talk with Toneal, the I'm glad to be a woman edition. On Thursday, we do I'm inspirational talk with Toneal, but it is the powerful black men edition. And this Thursday, my guest will be author Daryl Harvey. So you guys do not want to miss that interview. And then Friday, we have our educated and empowered day. And this Friday, we will be talking about current events. And when we do that, it's people, places, and things. So the person we'll be talking about is Dave Chappelle. The place we'll be talking about will be the Woman Event Conference, that is Woman Evolve Conference, that is in Dallas, Texas. And then the thing that we'll be talking about is this Facebook outage that we had a
Yeah.
week or so ago, and the impact of that Facebook outage. But in either case, guys, I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed the show, then please do me a favor and tag somebody that you know who would benefit from listening to this broadcast. And you can also hit that share button. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Mary, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest.
you for having me.
Absolutely. And until next time, you guys stay inspired.